All right, welcome into another edition of DCTV. I'm Doug Kazarian, joined with analytics capper Albert Nguyen. And Albert, I missed you the other day. You a quick trip to Vegas. I was under the weather, but it sounds like even though we didn't see each other, you got what I got.
Yeah, you gave me something through osmosis or something, but yeah, I was just there for a night, and I was able to go to the NBA Cup Finals, which was great. It's a good time.
So that's certainly an experience, right? You've been to a lot of sporting events, obviously being based in Dallas and whatnot. So, what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
I mean, it was packed. It was packed. It was high energy. This was at T-Mobile Arena on a Tuesday. Yeah, it was on a
Right.
Tuesday at 5 p.m. and it's packed. So the city is thirsty for a professional basketball team, absolutely. And it was nice. I met up with a couple like NBA writers, so that was fun. I met up with Raheem Palmer, who I've been friendly with for a while
I saw
now,
that.
and I cashed the only bet that I had that day, so I was on
There
the
you go.
Bucks first half, so no
Nice.
complaints.
I
Yeah.
had Giannis triple double, baby, 10 to
Wow.
1. So that was good. I also had 11.5 rebounds. I should have laddered it considering he finished with 19. But I think that's something, and obviously we can store this away, but so much of the talk was around unders in the games, right? All the
Mm.
Vegas games the last 2 years have gone under. 11-2 to the under, I believe, the last 2 years from quarterfinal on. While the unders have adjusted and the bookmakers and odds makers and all that, the market, I don't think the props have adjusted to rebounds overs. So things
Mm.
that are connected to missed shots or steals, right, or blocks, you get away with more, hand on the shot. In theory, blocks should be higher and rebounds should be higher.
Yeah, and we had the discussion a couple, I think 1 or 2 years ago, Doug. When I'm looking at player props, and I rarely do props in general, but when I do love the rebounds and assists because I think that's more indicative of a game script than a guy hitting 7 threes and going over on his points, right? So I like rebounds and assists. That's a really good call with all the missed shots, especially OKC, right? They missed so many three
Oh,
pointers. Yeah, that
yeah. That's why
all these
Giannis had
rebounds.
19.
Yeah,
He got some
opportunities
of them
for
at his
rebounds are.
waist. It just fell in
I
his
felt
lap.
like they actually didn't count one of his rebounds. I thought he had a 20th rebound that they didn't even count, but
A Barbara Walters game of 2020.
exactly. Yeah. Um,
All right,
no, but
man. Well, this is what's that?
yeah, I was just saying it was a great experience, and I wish I
Good.
had got come into Vegas earlier. Again, it was a last minute trip, but I would have tried to done the showdown right with Rory and Bryson and
Hmm.
Scheffler and Brooks, and then like come over to the NBA game. That would have been a really fun day.
Right, Shadow. I mean, look, anybody who gets, I've been lucky enough to play that course once. It's spectacular. Highly recommend it to anyone through MGM or whatever. You can get out there and play. It's not crazy expensive, so it's not Augusta, in the fall. So we got an NFL game, but we have a stacked NBA card. We got to get to that in a little bit. But let's start with the NFL. I've gone back and forth. Look, it starts with the Chargers. Herbert's not healthy, right? They're banged up at the various positions, but Herbert's out there. I was on the Chargers stupidly last weekend. Broncos really shouldn't even have won, let alone covered. They had the miracle flea flicker by the Colts to give them a pick six, and Broncos have the best record ATS in the entire league, 11-3 against the spread, and so this line's a solid 2.5, 41. I am leaning to the under. I not leaning. I'm headed towards the under. Not a monster play or anything like that. It's just getting a tough read on this Chargers defense. I mean, this Bucks team lit them up, and that has me. That's just ingrained in my head right now.
I mean, even to double click into that, they lit them up in the second half. It was actually a really competitive first half game. The Bucks beat them 27-0 in the second half. That is, whether it's Harbaugh or any other coach, that is pretty embarrassing. Um, if Herbert is hurt, and I think we both agree that he's not 100% today, I think their game script should be similar to how they started the year, right? A lot of smash mouth, lean on that defense, and try to control the clock. So I do like the underplay here. The only thing that I would be worried about is, because it's an island game on Thursday night, Bo Nix is a rookie. You might get a pick six that would flip the total, right? Things like that is not
Sure.
some of the things I'm worried about. But Denver is on fire. They've won 4 straight games. I think they've covered all 4 of those. They covered the week before that as an underdog as well. So they are, peaking at the right time, if you will. So I don't think it's a Denver play because I don't know. It'd be trying to catch a falling knife.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask, right? Short week, quick turnaround, off a lucky win. You're on the road. You're only getting 2.5. You're not getting 3. I was thinking a couple weeks ago when they were 9-3 against the spread. Every year, there's a team or 2 or 3 that has outlier sort of ATS records, right? Everyone at the end of the season is not 9-8 or 8-9. They're going to be 12-5, 14-3. There's these outliers. So a question is at 11-3, is the Broncos, are they going to continue to be that outlier, or are they going to be a little bit of regression? I think the market does have some regression. I think this line obviously would have been a lot higher earlier in the season. I believe the Chargers were 2.5 or 3 at Denver earlier
Yeah.
this season. Now, obviously, there's guys out for the year that are very key for the Chargers. The home field advantage is not that significant in LA. So it feels like a fair price. Like, frankly, I don't even know what I'm going to do in my pick'em league, let alone bet it. So that's where I'm torn. But I'm headed towards betting the under. But it's going to be such a sweat, just like so many of these NFL games are. Any opinions on some props? I like Herbert under 231.5 passing yards.
Mm, I like that. I mean, we talked about it. If you believe this game script is going to be the smash mouth lean on defense, story or journey, then yes, I don't think they're going to have Herbert toss the ball around a lot. Also, like under Herbert rushing yards, right? Could be a look as well because I don't think he's going to be
Ooh.
running outside the pocket and getting in harm's way. Um, one guy that was really disappointing last week was McConkey. McConkey has had a really good season, and last week there were a few drops there against the Bucks that I felt, you know, they're not on the same page. So for me, it'd be really interesting to see how Herbert and McConkey kind of bounce back this week.
Your rushing props interesting because he's 10.5,
Hmm.
and he had 0 last week.
It's interesting because he is he is an
That's a
underrated
banger.
athlete. Yeah, he's an
Right.
underrated athlete. He's a lot faster than people realize, and he's massive. He's huge. So if he gets a full head of steam, he can get 10 yards pretty easily. But I just don't think he's going to put his body in that, in harm's way.
Gosh, yeah. I mean,
That's a sweat.
in the
That's more
last
of a
game he had
sweat.
he had 4 carries for 2 yards. But to your point, all it takes is one run.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe some kneel downs at the end would help.
that would be nice. That would be nice.
Yeah. Any crazy props? I got some buddies who like to get involved in the first touchdown. There's some 90-1s out there with Tucker Fisk, I've been told. Who am I to turn down a 90-1 prop?
Yeah, nothing for me. I do agree with you that if this was 3, I would be a little more confident with the Broncos. But the fact that it's still 2.5 on most of the books is a little fishy
Well,
in
you
my
can get 3. You just got to
Yeah,
pay for it. Minus
yeah,
130 at most shops.
yeah. What about Bo
Um,
Nix? How do you think Bo Nix is gonna, look in this game? Again, it's an island game
so
for a rookie quarterback.
yeah, I like him. I think he's getting better every week. Obviously, Sean Payton's coaching him up. Um, we saw him on a Thursday night game. I knew they'd go 3-and-out. I wish I'd bet on that. Just the jittery, like you said, but I think things settled down. He was slinging around. That Cleveland defense is much worse than people realize. Um, I I think he could have a big game, but it's a classic. I mean, it's so funny over the years. It's been Shanahan, different. You just got the mobile quarterback, the rollout. You got to use the legs. Having a mobile quarterback doesn't necessarily mean he's just running. It's rolling out the fake zone read, stretch handoff, and then roll out throw. And frankly, Herbert does that a bunch too.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like, I don't know this Denver team that well in terms of their receivers and everything. They've been a little bit. I think last week was really hard because it was such a bad spot for them, and the Colts were the right side for so long of the game. So I don't know if they respond well. I think they're going to come out a little flat, to be honest.
Mm.
but it's a big game, so I'm not running to the counter to fire on that angle.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always the LA nightlife angle as well, right? It is in
Well,
LA.
but usually it's like dangled carrot like after the game when it's a
Yeah,
midweek game or whatever.
that's funny.
Have you broken down the NBA card? Because I've been already been on an NBA podcast, so I'm locked and loaded here.
Oh, there's a lot of strong reads. Kings again. I'm all first half, right? People who are joining the show for the first time, when it comes to the NBA, I prefer first half over the full game. If I really really like a side, I'll probably be on both the first half
Right.
and full game. So with that said, these are the spots that I'm looking for tonight. Kings first half. I think they come out and destroy the Lakers. Um, Spurs first half is a great look. I think Atlanta had a sneaky good run in NBA Cup, but um, I just don't think they're as good as they. I think that NBA Cup was an anomaly to that team. I don't think they're a serious team. And then there was one more earlier that I'll look for. But how about you, Doug?
So I'm heavy on the props tonight. I
Mm,
do like the Raptors. I think it
Raptors.
stinks that Pirtle's out. I'm not excited about that. But this Raptors team, man, it's a fate of the Nets. The Nets are not good, dude. Since losing Schroeder in the trade, and then Cam Thomas has been out with injury. Like
Hmm.
their team total under 107.5 is a banger. I I don't see how they're going to score. Now, I think their coach is solid. Don't get me wrong, but Raptors are favored for the first time all year, and they're 4 point favorites. They're not 2 point favorites. But I think they're the right side here. I just think they got too much talent, and they're well coached too at home. And this Nets team, I think we're going to start to see them head towards the season that we thought they'd have coming into the year. They're going to come back down to earth. And then I'm also like, these are some doozy. So I'm laying first time the Raptors have favored all year. I'm laying it, and I'm taking the Hornets as a road favorite.
It's the right side. Hornets.
Wizards stink.
Yeah.
Okay, and this Hornets team recently has not been doing great, but that's because Lamelo was out. Now they have their big three, assuming Miller plays because he's questionable, but Miller and Bridges. So all three of those guys against a Wizards team that now they'll have Brogdon, but they don't have Kuzma,
Hmm.
and they're just so bad.
The
And
Wizards are horrible. Yeah, that's
mean,
definitely a look for me as well. The other one I wanted to look for is actually big game return of Cat to Minnesota, Minneapolis. So Knicks are playing the Timberwolves. The line is set at 3. I kind of like Minnesota in this one. Um, I
okay.
I think I think there's going to be again, I haven't really looked into this, but I'm sure there's going to be like a tribute video. I'm sure that, the whole, hoopla, 5-10 minutes of Cat in the beginning. But I think someone like an Anthony Edwards is gonna say, "Fuck that," and he's gonna come out and really play. So I like the Timberwolves in this game, and I think they're gonna be a lot more motivated to actually show that it was the right move for them to trade Cat.
So that's what I was going to ask you. There's a couple like narratives going on right now. There's that, right, and we've had some similar narrative games like Jason Tatum in his first game against Steve Kerr since the Olympic benching, things like that. But sometimes the jitter, like Tatum didn't really get going till the second half, so
Mm,
that's part of it. Also, just this layoff. It's like an all-star break hangover. They haven't played in a few days. Some teams haven't played since Saturday or Friday, and I don't know like what these guys are doing, right? So you have Minnesota in good recent form based on how they were playing after like Ant called out his team saying we need to, all that stuff. That flipped the switch, but does that die down now?
mm. That's a great question. And the other part of the layoff discussion is, does it favor the away team being away from, home and family and all that, or does it favor the home team who, you know, for all intents and purposes, someone like Gobert's probably been in Minneapolis for the last week. Is that good or bad? We don't know, right? So,
Right.
yeah, that's a very interesting angle. I still think Minnesota, if you can get 2.5, one possession, that'd be great. 3 seems like a push to me, but I
Okay.
still like Minnesota as a side.
I have a favorite prop if you're ready for this one.
Let's do it.
As you know, being based in Dallas, Luca is out for the Mavs tonight. Kyrie's questionable, but in all the games Luka's out, except for one, PJ Washington has had double-digit rebounds,
Mm,
and his prop is 7.5.
that's a banger. And he loves playing the Clippers, as you guys saw in the playoffs
Yeah,
last
three
season.
pointers.
And he is, for those who don't follow the Mavericks really well, because you have Gafford and Lively, you have Luca and Kyrie, but the swing players are Najee and PJ. And PJ does a lot of things defensively that nobody else on that team does. I can see that for sure. The only thing that I would be worried about is he's the primary defender, point of attack defender, so he's not going to be back there grabbing rebounds. But if he's
For who?
back there as a help defender, then yeah, 7.5 should be
Who
easy.
is he the primary defender on though?
Um, it would be PJ and Harden, right?
Right. And but so the nice thing is Derek Jones Jr. is out for the Clippers, and he's a guy who can touch the jumbotron. So that's in theory more rebounding opportunities.
Yeah.
And the Clippers are a defensive-minded team, so there's gonna be some bricks and things like that. And just in the concept of there's no ball stoppage with Luca, so it's not just his rebounds are removed; the flow of the game picks up. I think the overs, the logical assumption would be like, oh, they're not going to score as much. They actually score a lot more because the
Mm,
pace is so much higher. Because Luca is such a wizard with the ball, but he stops the ball.
yeah.
It's a little bit of a staticky kind of a situation when he has the ball. I'm worried. Like Kyrie has to play. So if Kyrie's playing with all those kind of role players, this game might fly over. But the Clippers defense is pretty good. Zubac gobbles rebounds, but you only need 8 rebounds. I mean, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
Again, he's gotten 10, 11, 12 rebounds in all the Luca absences. So,
And if we're talking about a layoff, he's been on like a 2 week layoff because he was out during the NBA Cup. So
oh,
he,
Washington was?
yeah, he was out
Okay.
against OKC, right? So he's been out for at least 10 days now because of illness. COVID went through the Mavericks twice already this season, and I think they just caught the tail end of it right now.
Yuck. Yeah, you're right. Well, he played the 15th. Um,
Oh, interesting.
but you're right. He hadn't played in over a week before that. So there's that. That's my favorite prop. I'm on some bad teams. I lean Pacers too. I think the Suns. This is a classic case where the Suns are just like half checked out. Like they're just waiting for the playoffs to start. I know they've been playing well with Durant in the lineup. They've only won once without Durant in the lineup. Beal's out tonight, which doesn't do a ton in terms of the advanced metrics. I have to grab 6 points with the Pacers, but it's a very small play for me.
It's scary. It's really scary to back the Pacers just because they don't play any lick of defense. Um,
They've
yeah,
been
there's.
better as a team with Nebhard back at least.
Oh yeah, true. No read for
They're
me
three and
there.
three ATS since he's come back.
Okay. If this was like 8 or 9, then I would be Phoenix. I mean, sorry, I'd be on the Pacers, but yeah, 5.5, 6 is a little fishy for me. No read for
Okay.
me there.
Okay, you can get your first halves, like you said. Let's I'm just getting into the chat here, some of the stuff. People oh yeah. I forgot to call up the YouTube. People tweeted about it, and then I forgot to actually um
Let me push it on
people
Twitter.
people are oh god, all these are all these NFL props. I don't know any of these. So somebody's saying a lot of low rushing totals for some of these guys on the Chargers. What do you make of it? Rushing props. We talked about Herbert, which we like. What about some of the others? They're all low. You're looking at 26.5, 33.5, 27.5, 37.5.
Why is that? Is it a true committee tonight?
Committee situations, right?
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. 34.5, 28.5, and Herbert 10.5. Yeah, that's. I mean, if I'm playing the under, if I lean the under for the game, I actually like rushing yards over. That's just
Yeah,
that's
that makes sense.
my yeah. That's how I kind of analyze that. What about you?
That's all correlated, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of times the yards, you're like even in an over with the pass interference. Now you can get like a 60-yard play without anybody's passing yards,
Yep.
especially with a certain officiating crews, depending on who it is. And there's makeup calls, man. I was on the Titans. I was watching the Titans Bengals game last week. There's like one of the worst DPIs I've ever seen. Sure enough, the other team has the ball. Next one, they got like a bogus call too, just to like even it out. It's crazy, um, especially with such drastic implications. So, bottom of the hour, we have another 30 minutes. Something we wanted to talk about. You mentioned you connected with some reporters and stuff, and Raheem as well. I would say the betting space is definitely taking some twists and turns over the last few years.
Yeah.
And you got content creators, you got professional bettors, you have conventional media members dipping into that foray. Um, I maintain the biggest mistake that happened in the space. Biggest is a strong word, but a big mistake is the term betting analyst.
Mm.
That's what I think have thrown a lot of peace. Because as soon as these people get labeled an analyst, they try to be this experty and talk about the word, throw around the word value. They have no clue what it means, and it's just amateur hour. And they're all trying to like get hide it with this. If they were just like betting personalities or something like that, it would be a lot softer sort of dialogue, and it would just be the what it really is in a lot of cases, right? There's a lot of people just having fun, interacting,
Hmm.
um, being communal. But then the word analyst just people like it just rattles the cages subconsciously more than anything. And then it's um, then it just becomes like, well, you're an idiot. You're not an expert. Why am I listening? All that stuff. So that's where someone who's come up through the ranks of the on air and sort of the media space, that's what's resonated the most.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, for me, Doug, because I'm not in the media space, right? This is all very new to me. I would say at the end of the day, if people can actually identify what is the most important thing to them, and in my opinion, is winning bets, then
Right.
that's all that should matter, right? So it doesn't matter how they're um, portraying themselves. It doesn't matter how they're creating, their content. As long as at the end of the day they're winning 55 to 58% of their bets. They do that, then in the long term you're helping people out. So I think the space is ever changing, even from like within a year, right? What we saw in the
Yeah.
beginning of the year and what hits there in social media versus what's now hitting, which is parlays and all that. Like it always course corrects itself, and then I think it does help identify and help rise the cream of the crop, right? The the ones that are successful long term are the ones that are going to stick around. So I truly believe that. I mean, me and Raheem, we had a really good talk about, um, a couple years ago, he had like a down run. It wasn't bad or anything, but he had a down run. He had to make a couple changes, and it's been great ever since. And I told him the beauty of it all is like the odds makers change, the lines change. We have to change and evolve as well. It's not about us being faster than algorithms. There's no way we can do that, but it's us evolving and just changing our principles along the way. So it's been a wild ride. For those who don't know, AC's been around since summer 2020 now, and it's been life changing so far.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's awesome that it's been going on this long and you've grown it into what it is now. But you're right. I do think winning should be the bottom line, literally and figuratively. But that's not always the case.
Yeah.
I do think the it's been sort of phased out the scam to cappers, so to speak, and the BS artists. There has been some evolution in the space in that regard, but there is a communal component, which DubClub is obviously does channels that in a great way. That I think is something that I overlooked going into it. Right, I'm such a
Mm.
I'm not a loner, but like I'm not someone who's I'm older and it's like I do my things, but I also get together. But like I'm busy cranking, um, so I don't identify with someone half my age. Let's be honest, right? In
Mm.
the early 20s. So, but I've been receptive to guidance. I have people on my team that are younger that are drilling it into me and all that stuff. Um, so I appreciate the demand for everything, right? Like it's just like for example, there's three sort of like chain restaurant bars in town here. I mean, there's a bunch, but the three I want to talk about. There, one's PT's, one's SG or Sierra Gold, and the other one's a new one called Great American Pub or Gap. All three, it's like the dive bar. The other one's like a little nicer. The other one has like clean, slick TVs, and they're all owned by the same company, from what I've heard.
Mm,
So they're just appealing to three different
yeah.
demos. It's the same industry, so to speak, same hub, and it's like if Spirit and all these different airlines had the same ownership, and they're just packaging it differently.
Yeah.
So the way to do this is to have different levels so you can package it a certain way.
Yeah.
But I'm just doing it. I only know me because I only do me, right?
No, it's nice that we're having this discussion live on air, with our guards down. For those who are jumping on for the first time, Doug and I do this every single week, Thursday afternoons. We're gonna get into all the sports and all the picks, but also we give you guys insight into our perspective, right? So for those who are just jumping on for the first time ever and meeting us, I would say if you want to get into the space, like jump head on, but you have to have thick skin because when it comes to money, there's always going to be people that want to bring you down. There's always going to be people that want to call you out. But you have to have thick skin and just shrug it off. So as long as you are confident in your plays and your analysis and your research, and you know that you yourself have won a long term, that's all that really matters, and that's all that your clients and your followers are going to matter, right? I started this thing in summer of 2020 doing Russian table tennis, right? No one would have expected Russian table tennis to hit this hard, but you fast forward 30 or 45 days, I had like 10,000 followers because people are thirsty for smart, sharp information to help them make money, whether that's for their fantasy leagues or pick'em leagues or just straight betting. I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to help out people for sure.
I would agree with that. And look, if you are, I mean, it kind of goes back to my ESPN days, right? Like when I was coming up through the ranks of Sports Center, the worst thing you can do is try to be someone you're not. So, I mean, there's only one Kenny Mayne, right? There's only, one Stuart Scott or one Bob Lee. But the common denominator is, someone you want to grab a beer with or whatever. But you have to do it your way. So I've only known to do it my way because I'm not going to try it. But there are people who are great um, sort of aggregator or more just personalities in the betting space are
Yeah.
going to do it, and they have great followings and all this stuff. And that's if you are that one outlier or whatever, and you don't need to win or whatever, then great, go for it. But for the most part, I'm only going to do what I know, and that's to give valuable information straight from Vegas and things like that, and my circle and my aggregating of information and
Hmm.
present it in the cleanest way possible. But that's what I believe in, and I think anyone should have a job, whether they create it themselves with a startup or go find it, that perfectly fits their strengths. That's the best way to be a specialist and to have a job that literally is perfectly. So I tailor made my venture and to do content and to do other adjacent sort of things that are just all in my wheelhouse,
Mm,
right? I'm just going to do it, and then hopefully there's enough people in our country and then outside of that want that have the demand for that.
yeah. All right. So
But you're
just to
right. Like the
recap,
widest net to throw is
yeah,
smart, winnable information.
yeah. So Doug, just to recap our NBA plays, right? For those who are jumping on, I like the Kings, T Wolves, and Spurs, all three in the first half. If I had to pick a game where I like first half and full game, it would probably be the Spurs. And then Doug, what were your props in the NBA?
So yeah, so the sides I like some doozies: Hornets and Raptors, each laying 4. Some bad teams laying points. And then I'm on PJ Washington over 7.5 rebounds. That's by far my favorite prop. And then some other ones I do like are Cade Cunningham over 9.5 assists,
Mm,
Walker Kessler over 20.5 points and rebounds in the Utah Jazz. I think he's going to have quite a bit. He kind of like his ceiling's like 30. So, I mean, he could get 16, but I just think that range there is pretty good. You could ladder it, but again, I don't love the play or anything like that. And then DeAndre Hunter's been great off the bench since going to that 6 man in that Spurs game you mentioned playing the Hawks. He's been great. Like I think his floor is like 15 and his ceiling's like 25. So it's 17 and a half. I just feel there's more ways to win than lose. And then I'm going to double up on that Raptors game. I'm going to take the Nets team total under 107 and a half. And then man up to your heart for the first half. I think I have to go back to playing the Celtics first half team total. Their second half pace is such a drop off, and the market doesn't really adjust. So I do like the 63 and a half for team total. And in that game, Vucevic over 20 and a half points and rebounds.
Yeah, Vucevic has been playing a lot better this year for
And that
sure.
game's going to be up and down, and he has range. He's going to grab rebounds, so I think I think he's good. I think that's a good
Yeah,
play
my
in a high
my
pace
my good
game.
friend Sean Little, who's from Chicago, he says the Bulls play like they're the Lamborghinis, even though they're just the Toyota Priuses. So the pace is going to be really up and down, like you said. Right now, the total's set at 241 and a half. So yeah, all that makes sense to me. Doug, you want to go over to college football? There's
Yeah, big
playoffs this
weekend.
weekend. Yeah.
You're going to love my favorite play of the weekend. We'll get to that. Let's start with the night game. I threw Notre Dame in a money line parlay with one of the bowl games last night. The 7.5. I think we're going to see some points, first of all.
Hmm.
I know Notre Dame's got a pass rush. I think Indiana, the Kirk Disnetti is going to be able to scheme up some stuff. I think they're going to play fine in the cold, all that stuff. And it's just a relatively low total. And I do think Notre Dame can put up some points too. So 52 and a half does feel kind of low. What's your read on that first playoff game?
Yeah, the first thing that people don't realize is these playoff games are actually at the school home stadiums, right? So Notre Dame is hosting this game against Indiana. That's a big advantage for them. 7 to me seems low. I think I think Notre Dame is gonna win by at least a couple scores. So I like Notre Dame in that game as well. Indiana was a
Why do
very
you
good
think it's such a
story all
lopsided
season
game?
long. I think Indiana had its moment in the sun. I think every team, there's one or two teams every year that goes through this, where they overachieve, but then once they start getting to, the Notre Dames of the world, I think it's you'll see the discrepancy in talent, in speed, in strength, all of that.
Counterpoint, they were up 7-0 on Ohio State, and the sort of the moment got too big. Like there were jitters. Any part of you that thinks they've like sort of experienced a little bit of the big game and jitters, and now like especially against Michigan as well,
Yeah.
now they'll be conditioned for this.
I mean, they should be more hardened for it for sure, but it's the one thing that when I'm looking at these playoff games, Doug, it's really hard for me to not bet on all four home teams. Like maybe that's just a very simplistic way to look at it, but I think especially in college
Counterpoint,
sports, yeah, go ahead.
counterpoint. Ohio State and Penn State, like these coaches, these teams have like wet the bed in big moments.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it's? Why do you assume it's an advantage? Like, don't you think the pressure is also there?
The pressure is definitely there, and we've seen Ohio State not perform under those bright lights already a couple times. That's actually the one game, just because we know Tennessee can put points on the board. But Texas, I really like. Penn State against SMU, I really like. SMU is really fast. They're gonna run some gimmicky plays to keep Penn State, on their heels. But in a 60-minute game, Penn State's gonna overcome all that and dominate them. Offensive line.
See, I love SMU. That's my
Mm,
favorite play. Now I'm waiting for 10. I'm quite confident I can get 9.5. So I'm just waiting for 10.
okay.
Starting 9 at DraftKings. I think the world's going to share your thoughts largely because they looked so great in their last game. I was really
Mm.
impressed with Penn State how they punched back. They didn't roll over, and they looked pretty good. My thing with SMU is the moment got the best of them. There was a lot of jitters in that first quarter. They were down 21
Mhm.
nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
and the Jennings had the terrible pick. He was just panicking. But once they settled down, they were the better team.
They're a talented team.
I
Don't
think
get me wrong.
I think they might win this game.
Mm. They
Now,
should
I
have
wouldn't
beaten
be
Clemson.
shocked if Penn State wins by double digits,
Yeah.
but I think I think I think Franklin chokes here.
Mm,
This is where he's going to
interesting.
choke.
Yeah. Both teams coming off losses, both teams coming off ATS losses, so no really bounce back advantage there for either
I think the
team.
huge coaching edge here with SMU.
Mm, I like that. I like that angle.
And they played. They were rattled. It was too big. The moment was. I think the fact if it were a night game and the whiteout in Happy Valley, I'd be concerned. But it's noon. Penn State is good in the bully role. So when they're laying like 20 to Maryland,
Yeah.
Franklin will cover.
Yep.
But in these types of games, like the Minnesota game where they almost lost, now there's familiarity within the conference there for sure. But they should have lost to USC too, right? I think I think Franklin's going to choke. I think he's going to punt on 4th and 2 on the other team's 46-yard line, stuff like
Mm.
that. He's going to play
So
not to
here's a
lose.
good hypothetical. So we saw that SMU just went down 21 nothing, right? Let's say conversely they start hot. Let's just say 14 nothing. Would you live bet Penn State here, or do you think SMU pours it on? I think the latter.
Oh, you think they would pour it on? I don't think. I mean, pour it on's all relative, but the live line if it's early and they're 14-0, it'd probably be Pick'em or something like that, like 1.5, something like that. I'd be a little uneasy. I'd rather be 21-0 and I'm laying 6.5 than because I want to see who scores next
Yeah.
versus like I just think I think it's like I think they're better coached and I think Penn State's going to screw something up.
Mm.
I don't think their offense is that explosive, although they were explosive against Oregon. I give them all the credit in the world for that. That's my contrarian kind of chic play. I'm just waiting for 10.
You think he'll hit 10? 10's a lot.
9 already. And
Yeah.
I haven't met one person who likes it, Sharps included. I don't know any Sharps who like the dog in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, you were right away. You're saying Penn State and all. Now, every Sharp I know, not everyone, but most like Tennessee in that game. But I will say, I talked to an odds maker the other day. They said literally their sharpest player in the book bet Ohio State -7. I mean, it's just one bet. That's the thing with when you hear this stuff. You just got to remember Sharps, lose and blah, blah, blah. But the guys who do it for a living and the guy they've tracked and they position their book to need that same side as how, the method to the madness. I don't think Clemson can keep it close, but I'm not in a rush to lay 12. I like the under 51.5 in that game.
Ooh, interesting. The under, huh?
I think Texas is just a dead under team. Their defense is really good. Their offense is mediocre. I think Clemson's got enough recruits that on defense, they're going to hang around. I think it's like 23-10 kind of game. It's going to go way
Yeah,
under.
I think Texas is gonna have a few packages with Arch. So I
They
think that's
should.
gonna
I mean,
yeah,
that's for sure.
that's definitely gonna help their offense. But that could be more of a
I'm
second.
fascinated by the weather. We don't see games at this time of the calendar.
Yeah, that is it's I mean it's cool being a Texas fan, like it's cool that they're hosting this game and maybe I'll drive down there on Saturday, but I'm excited for it. I do think Texas I probably would lay the 12 to be honest. It's such a weird number.
Yeah, I mean, for a reason, right? Like if it were 10, they'd be getting one-sided action. 14, they'd be getting one-sided action.
Mm-hmm.
I think Clemson does some things really well, but there are a couple of teams they can't beat, and I think Texas is one of them. Georgia's the other. Um, there's a ceiling to this Clemson squad. I think Klubnik's okay, but like Justin Herbert, he has these brain farts every once in a while. You just can't; they're inexplicable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just don't want to lay those points with this Texas offense. That you're right, they should blow them out, and they've played enough big games. Like I was, that winning at A&M was no joke. I mean, that crowd and everything on Saturday night, and then the Georgia game was legit in terms of just hanging. But that obviously facing Georgia is different than facing Clemson. But who knows? Dabo's been there before. He knows how to push the right buttons. So would you do it? So if you like all the favorites, would you do a money line parlay of all four?
No, no. I never think it's that easy. So I do think there's going to be a dog that might even win outright. I think that's the conversation we should have is, okay, out of the
Okay.
four favorites,
Well, you
which
know where I
dog?
stand.
Yeah, so you like SMU.
Although
Um,
Tennessee certainly wouldn't surprise me at all.
mm,
Ohio State's got issues. Their offense, their quarterback stinks.
oh yeah, their QB is terrible. But that's a really, really strong Ohio State read, just looking at the screens. That's a
Yeah.
very, very sharp
What
read.
about it? I mean, I kind of read it that way, but what about it makes you say that?
I mean, Tennessee is a square dog, right? You could look that up on any outlet.
Right?
That's already principle number one. I'm never going to be on that side. The fact that it's moved off seven, key number of 7 to 7.5, is very telling as well. That could be reaction to all your sharps that you mentioned that are on Ohio State. And it's such a great, how can I say this? With all the negative news around Ohio State and the flags and all that, this is their chance to just shut that all up. And Tennessee, even though they have the ability to put points up, they also can. They could be down. I don't know. They could be down seven with the ball driving late, and then they turn the ball over, right? So there's always. I don't know. I think Ohio State has more outlets to win and cover than Tennessee does.
And it's a night game. I mean, that's not at the horseshoe and everything. That's a legit atmosphere in Tennessee. This isn't Bama with Saban. Like they haven't been to these kind of games. I mean,
Yeah.
they've played in the SEC, which physicality wise. I worry about the Buckeyes secondary a little
Mm.
bit, but can Nico take advantage? I don't know. And how good of a coach? Like I was going to say, how good of a coach is Ryan Day? But I will say Chip Kelly, who I love, has been some really questionable play calling some of these big games.
Yeah.
Um, I thought they were great in the Oregon game. Just some team had to win. That's fine. But just the ineptitude against Michigan in that game was just sort of bizarre.
I mean, it's a QB play, man. Will Howard had 175 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. That interception at the goal line was embarrassing.
And
It
then the
almost looked
Michigan
like,
one was worse.
yeah. So, yeah, you're right. It's a tough game to handicap, but I think if Ohio State leans on their offensive line and running game, then I think they should be able to dominate.
But that's what got him in trouble against Michigan. Now, does Tennessee have the same trenches? Because what happened was
No.
Chip Kelly was calling early runs and setting up predictable passes
Yeah.
for Will Howard at 3rd and 6 or whatever, 3rd and 5. So that was the issue. I think you have to throw on first down, but do it in the flats on rollouts. I mean,
Yeah.
Chip Kelly's great. He knows what he's doing. He just got too predictable, and that made things too uncomfortable for Will Howard.
I would say I would say Chip Kelly needs to lean on their run game even on 3rd and 6 because there is
Okay.
nothing more demoralizing for a
Oh,
defense,
so true.
right? To stop them on first and second down for 4 or 5 yards, but then give up 5 or 6 on the third down run. That kills their body language, their just their oomph for the next play. And I think they just need to keep at it. Like even though it's 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 6, it doesn't mean it's a pass. The ones that like the Ravens in the NFL, if it's
Oh,
3rd and 5, right? They're gonna stretch it out to Henry or do a zone read to Lamar. That kills your morale as a defense. So I think Ohio State needs to just focus on that. That was a really bad game against Michigan, but I think it was,
yeah. Well, it's the
um,
pressure of the rivalry and everything.
yeah, yeah.
Any other bowl games looking ahead that are absolute spots? And before we move to the NFL,
Um, looking
UTSA in a
through,
blowout.
what was that?
UTSA in a blowout.
I mean, their offense is legit.
Coastal's down to a third stringer, freshman quarterback.
Oh no, that's
And
tough.
we saw how Cal's freshman did last night.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
that could be a nuke.
that's a
Just like
potential. Yeah, that's a potential read.
that could be a blowout.
Yeah. Kind of like Toledo as well against Pitt. That's an interesting game.
It all depends if Pitt's quarterback Holstein plays, because otherwise the backup's already gone. So you're looking at a third stringer there as
Hmm.
well. And
Hmm.
Narducci, the problem is, both coaches stink in bowl games, so it's.
What about
Uh,
this
but yeah,
A&M USC game? What are your thoughts on that?
that's too far down the road. I'm looking at more of the garbage bowls. The Hawaii Bowl, South Florida, San Jose State.
Is
Coach
Bill
Ken
Belichick?
coming back to Hawaii.
Is Bill Belichick going to be at the Fenway Bowl?
I don't know,
That's
probably.
UConn, UNC. I mean, that's Boston is perfect.
Yeah, it's right down the street.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, let's get into the NFL.
all right, let's go to the NFL. It's a good card. I know people are like poo-pooing it, but you factor in Thursday, Saturday, and I like a big favorite in one of these games. But that's a guy who's still celebrating the Ravens cover last week against the Giants.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Is Mahomes playing?
I would say the market says yes.
Yeah.
I would say yeah too. Like it's too. I mean, he's been at the facility several hours, things like that.
It's incredible because it's a high ankle sprain. He could barely walk on the field.
Right.
2 days later, he goes through a full practice. I think he's playing as well. You and I talked about this offline, but Houston is a fade team usually.
Yes.
Um, I kind of like KC in this game. What do you think?
Only side I would play, and I'd hammer it now because I think you can get a market. You can
Agreed.
beat the market on it. 2.5 is so valuable, and I don't think it's going to go back down. Oh, it's already at 3.5. Excuse me. So I said this yesterday on a podcast. I said grab the 2.5 as soon as you can because this thing's going up. So it's 3.5. I didn't even realize it did that. I think, I think the Texans stink. The one
Yeah.
thing they can do is run the ball, but that's what KC does well. Hollywood Brown's back. That's a big lift, you would think. And
Hmm.
the reason part of the reason some of these teams aren't that good in September and October is that they're playing the marathon concept. So I actually think this is where like the Chiefs are pushing and playing well, whereas the Texans don't have that experience, and that's why they were so underperforming this year,
Hmm.
being the hunted instead of the huntee.
I can see that.
Expectations.
Yeah, I mean, KC's been here basically 8 years in a row at this point, so they know what to do and they know what to expect this late in the season. And I know the narrative on all the sports media talk heads and stuff that after last week was KC understands how important the number one seed is. And I think it's even more so this year because of how, old and slow Travis Kelsey looks, how
Sure.
injured Mahomes looks, their running back situation, their wide receiver situation. So I think that extra week off is going to be really big for this team. So I think they are going to try. The thing about KC in the past is they just want to win. They don't want to cover, right? That's always been like their
Right.
MO. But I think this is a game where Mahomes is going to come out and actually want to dominate Houston because they're the
Well, we
new.
don't need them to really cover a big number, too.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Like the winning and covering are sort of aligned, like they were last week. Right? The numbers
yeah,
are 3.5.
yeah.
I got
Michael
two
Penix
underdogs
is.
for you.
Oh yeah,
What's
let's
that?
hear it.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Bears plus 6.5 at home against
Oof.
Jared Goff outdoors at Lions.
It's a Bears play. Um, Caleb Williams, man, I just can't get a good read on him. I
The
tweeted this.
coaching's terrible.
The coaching is bad, sure. I said this on a tweet the other day is I'm going to give him 2 full years, whether it's with this coaching staff or a brand new one next year. But that's when I'm going to really assess Caleb Williams because I'm really high on his talent and he's shown flashes that he can be really good in this league. But there are also his highs are high, but his lows are really bad as well. I mean the one play where he did the spin twice and then he jumped and threw it across the field. I mean, what is that?
Well, it's
That's
bad habits that he got away with in college. I was
mm,
worried that that would happen too often in
mm,
pros. I remember there was a preseason game where he did that a bunch of times and threw like a touchdown at the end of the first half, and everybody
mm.
celebrated it. I'm just like, dude, that's vanilla second string defenses. You don't want to be doing that.
But you're
Uh,
right. Detroit Lions outside in the weather. You know it's cold. You know
well,
it's gonna be
the
windy.
defense is ravaged with injuries.
Oh yeah, there's a ton. Like there's 4 or 5 starters out. So
The
this is a
problem is the Bears' defense got worse when Eberflus got fired. That was
Yeah,
the problem
which
that no
which
one
didn't
really
make
talks
sense to
about.
me. And the other scary thing obviously is Detroit just lost, right, on Monday night, so everybody remembers that. This could be an overreaction, but it's just Chicago read for me as well.
And you're getting 6.5 too.
Yeah.
How about 14 in the Patriots?
What are your thoughts on 6.5 buying the 7? What are your like overall
If you find
principles
the
around that?
right book, some books will do it and they'll charge you 10 cents stupidly. If you can get minus 20 or honestly, like I'm such an in-game player that like you're probably gonna get 7.5 right away.
Mm,
You know, I wouldn't lay the 30. I wouldn't lay a minus 130 unless you're doing it in like a parlay, you just one extra leg. It's like all right, get the
mm,
7, buy it, throw it. It's just once you get the juice going. I mean, even teasers, you should only do minus 120.
yeah.
6 point teasers, that is. What do you think about the Patriots plus 14?
Um, do we know it's gonna be snowy and bad weather?
I think it. I think we do.
Okay, so while you
Checking
look
my
that
notes
up,
right now.
I mean, you actually brought me to this. The Patriots numbers with Brissett is completely different than numbers
Right.
with Drake May. So they're going to be able to move the ball around, and Buffalo is at a point where winning by 10 is more than sufficient for them. So
It's a horrendous spot, right?
yeah, I don't have a read on it. It's tough. It is an interdivision, match, but 14 is a lot of points.
I mean, they play hard to the end. You have the OC getting called out by the coach, and they're going to play better and all that stuff. And the Bills are coming off that monster 2-game road trip. They won, in Detroit. I mean, I think a lot depends, honestly. Like if the Chiefs win on Saturday, I think the Bills are going to be like a little checked out because the chances of them catching KC are.
That's really smart insight. Yep, that's really smart.
Then they'd have to go 2-0 or 3-0, and then KC would have to go 0-2.
Uh,
Round two for them to
that's actually
catch it.
really smart.
Um,
Good looking out there.
so in
Who
terms of
else is in the
contests,
running?
I'm going to
Who
go.
else is in the running for AFC one seed? Is it just those two?
I
Pittsburgh?
think so. I'm calling it up as we speak. The Steelers had a fourth loss now. So Steelers for the 2 seed, but not it's just Buffalo because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, so they're 2 losses
That's
back.
actually
But
really smart. Yeah, a lot of it is
it's
going to
just
be
a
contingent on how KC plays.
it's just a big number, and I think they're competent, and I think it's a flat spot for the Bills. And Josh Allen can only, at some point he's got to like throw an incompletion or whatever.
And then on the
I also
NFC side, there's three teams at 12-2. That's interesting.
yeah, I mean the Eagles have won 10 straight. I'm not fading them this weekend. Everyone else is. I'm just not ready to do that yet.
Everyone's fading the Eagles against Washington.
3.5 is a big number. I mean, that's what the number was in Philly, right? When they played each other on a Thursday night a few weeks ago. We were doing this show, and you said you liked the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. I still like the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm just not going to bet against them. I mean, you with these kind of streaks, and these teams are on cover streaks like Denver tonight. You can only be right once when you bet into the streaks,
Yeah,
right? But if you tail even late, you can only be wrong once.
yeah.
So it's something to keep in mind as we have all this FOMO of these trends. That's important to keep in mind. All right, you want to know my banger?
Let's hear it.
Packers.
Packers. Let's see.
Monday night laying 14.
Oh my goodness. Who's starting
This
for
is a
New
snow
Orleans?
game, possibly. You're looking at Spencer Rattler.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Kamara's lightly out. And Green Bay should literally just run the ball all day and just get touchdown drives.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans offense is struggling. That's even before Rattler.
They're better with Rattler. I actually thought Jake Hayner was better, but I was wrong. I'll admit it.
This is a nice, because the Packers have been on the road twice, Detroit and Seattle back to back. Now they're back in Lambeau, friendly confines, and this is a dome team coming up to Green Bay. Yeah, that's really tough
And a
conditions.
horrendous defense. And if
Yeah,
Kamara is out, like, what are they going to do on offense?
yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
I just worry it's a little bit of kind of we were talking about the Buffalo, like flat spot off the big road win, all that. But I just think they're so inept, New Orleans.
hmm Green Bay's a solid team.
And they're getting better. I think they're trending, they're peaking late.
Yeah,
I think they are
I think
peaking late.
for me, they didn't have like a hierarchy with their wide receiver room heading into the season. But now, in my opinion, there's a clear 1, 2, and 3, and it's helped Jordan Love, in my opinion. So I
Well,
like
I just
Green Bay
like that
with him.
there's one guy for each like level, right? There's the
Yeah,
speedster, there's the
yeah, yeah,
he has all the tools in the tool belt. Is Love.
yeah.
You're not gonna fly out for the Raiders Jags game.
Yeah. No, no. I am
Raiders are
still.
just dumb enough to win this game. I like them.
I actually like the Raiders too, and
Yeah.
it's Ritter. It's Ritter again, right?
No, I think O'Connell's practicing. That's the only reason I would only bet O'Connell. I would only bet the
Interesting.
Raiders if O'Connell played.
Ritter was so bad that the
Because
previous
you know why he is so bad. That's why.
he was so bad. Oh my gosh,
I don't know
that
how
was a
he was
crazy
starting in
push for
Atlanta.
me. It was a safety, a missed extra point. I still pushed it. Two block punts, still pushed. Yes, because Mac Jones is that bad as well. So I do like Vegas in that one. It's a interesting game just because I actually think the Raiders will have a home field advantage in that game because
Oh yeah,
usually people
the
travel in,
Jags
right?
won't.
But no one, yeah, no one's a Jaguars fan, so we're good there.
That's
I like
such a
Ritter.
great point.
Yeah,
It's the
I do like
first
the
time the
Raiders.
Raiders won't have invaded by fans.
Yep.
Oh, all right, man. That's all I got.
Cool.
Well, feel better. I finally have turned the corner, so I hope you feel better.
Yeah. I'm sweating profusely, so I'm losing like a pound an hour.
I
So
was there about 5 days ago.
yeah. All right, man.
I've
Thank
been
you
enjoying.
guys, everybody, for jumping on. We'll be back next Thursday. Are we back next Thursday? It's Christmas, right?
We'll figure it out. I mean, maybe we'll move to a different day, like we did Thanksgiving week or
Okay.
something. But our links
Sounds good.
to free trials, all that good stuff. I'll be posting all those NBA props on my DubClub card as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, take care, guys.